Thank you for watching the video and reading my newsletter for November 2023. I'll give you a quick overview of each article, and then if you want to read the full article, just arrow down or just scroll down and you can read the article, and there'll be links in some of the articles for you as well. If you don't have the newsletter, if you're watching this on social media, for instance, there'll be a link in the video where you can go and view the newsletter online or download it. Let's get started. Okay, so here's the November newsletter for 2023. And our first article this month is the 6 external influences that lessen home values. Now, as a buyer, these are things that you should be very aware of as you're looking for homes for sale, especially if you're not familiar with the area. The first one here is going to be noise, things like traffic and sirens, construction, that kind of thing. So be very aware of that, and you might want to visit that property multiple times a day to kind of see how that noise really is in that area. The next one under danger down here, there's going to be a couple of links in here that you can click on for crime statistics. So the first one's going to be USA.gov. You can also search the Office of Justice Programs for known sex offenders living in any area that you're looking to buy in, anywhere in the country. Industrial pollution. Builders will often look for land in industrial areas where parcels are cheaper and larger to build construction like apartments and houses. Now, if you visit the Environmental Protection Agency with this link, put in the address of the house you're looking to buy, and it'll give you some emission results for any industries that are maybe impacting that neighborhood. The other thing you want to watch for is under high number of rentals. Ooh, that was tough for me to say. If you're buying a condo or a house or even a townhouse somewhere, one of the things when you put that house under contract, you're going to get a copy of the Homeowners Association documents. In there, one of the things that you should look for is to see how many rental properties that Homeowners Association will allow. It's usually a percentage, so it's usually somewhere between 5%, 10, 15%. I have seen them as high as 50%. So keep in mind, the more rentals that are in there, probably the lower that home value is probably going to be, and maybe less happy you will be, because there's a lot of transients. And by that I mean you have a lot of short-term people. So they're renting a house for a year or 6 months, and they really don't care much about the neighborhood because, quite frankly, they don't own the property. The next thing is bad neighbors. So one of the things you should do is, if you're serious about buying a particular property, is go and talk to some of the neighbors. My neighbor across the street a few years ago, when they bought that house, that's exactly what he did. He came around, knocked on everybody's door within probably 3 or 4 houses of it, talked to all the neighbors, had a great conversation. Apparently we passed because they did buy the house and they have been fantastic neighbors. But by all means, please go and knock on doors and talk to the neighbors. Next article is going to be how to prepare your outdoor for fall and winter. I'm not going to cover a lot of this. If this is something you're interested in, it's a really good article, and you can click on the article from National Association of Realtors or the Oklahoma State University Extension Office down here. And it's telling you that it's a good time of the year to be planting your bulbs for next season. Get all your weeding done and your pruning, replenish all your mulch, things like that. So it's a very good article if that's something you're interested in. Should sellers help buyers with a mortgage buy down? Now, if you're not familiar with a mortgage buy down, roughly what it means is the seller is going to give the buyer a credit at closing, or we call a concession at closing, to help them buy down their interest rate. So maybe if their interest rate's going to be that 7.5%, the seller can contribute some money that will help buy down the points. So maybe they get 1% less on their interest rate, which really helps the buyer out. So if you're going to be selling or buying, this is a good article for you to read so that you have an understanding, or at least a broad overview of what a mortgage rate buy down is. And that is something that the seller can definitely help the buyer with. So again, read that if you're going to be buying or selling a house, so that you understand if your buyer asks for it, or if it's something the seller is going to offer as a buyer, and you'll know what's going on. What to consider when selling your home as is. Now, this is probably about 25% of the transactions that I do with sellers is they want to sell their house as is. They don't want to fix anything. They don't want to do any repairs. Absolutely nothing. They want to put on the market in the current condition and just sell it as is. Now, and that's all fine and well, and I completely understand. And some sellers are in a condition or a position where they just can't afford to do any repairs on the property, and that's completely understandable. But if you're not in that position, you may want to consider doing some of the repairs, and it depends on the severity of the property and the condition on what really needs to be done. And the reason I say that is some of the mortgage grantors, guarantors like FHA and VA, they're going to have certain safety and home integrity requirements so they're going to go through a different inspection than a normal appraisal. And so if it doesn't meet if there's any safety issues, for instance, exposed wiring, a plumbing issue, for instance, those things, they may not pass the FHA or VA inspection, which now means you have cut out that whole portion of buyers. So you're now down to either selling it to a cash buyer or possibly a conventional loan person. So you've lost a lot of the buyers, and especially in Colorado Springs market, we have a lot of VA buyers. Matter of fact, we have one of the highest markets in the country for VA buyers. So maybe something you might want to consider is not selling it as is. Now, with that said, our CBS, which is our contract to buy and sell in the state of Colorado, it says right in the contract, and this is going to be in the in section 10.2 of our contract, and I'll quote it for you here. It says that, except whereas provided in the contract, the buyer accepts the buyer acknowledges that the seller is conveying the property to the buyer in an as-is condition, where is, and with all faults. So it is stated in there that we're selling it the way it is and as you're seeing it right now. However, the contract does allow for an inspection and does allow for people, the buyer, to ask the seller to do certain repairs. And sometimes those repairs are because they're a VA or an FHA buyer, and some of those things need to be done for them to qualify. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions about this, just feel free to reach out to me. And that's the end of the newsletter for this month. Thanks again for reading my newsletter this month. If you don't receive my newsletter by email and you'd like to, just feel free to reach out to me. You can either email me, text me, call, whatever, and I'll be happy to add you to that email list. Thanks again for watching. Have a great month, and we'll see you in December.